From Washington, the McLaughlin Group, the American original. For over 2 decades, the sharpest minds, best sources, hardest talk. This program is brought to you by MetLife. Guarantees for the if in life.
Issue 1, headwinds ahead.
If the United States government, for the first time, cannot pay its bills, if it defaults, then the consequences for the U.S. economy will be significant and unpredictable. So all the headwinds that we're already experiencing in terms of the recovery will get worse.
This warning came from President Barack Obama on Wednesday. Congress has until August 2 to raise the U.S. debt ceiling. That's the outer maximum limit on the time that the White House and Congress have to borrow money to keep the government going. If August 2 comes and goes without raising the $14.3 trillion debt ceiling, Mr. Obama says the nation will feel the hurt.
If capital markets suddenly decide, you know what, the U.S. government doesn't pay its bills, so we're going to start pulling our money out. And the U.S. Treasury has to start to raise interest rates in order to attract more money to pay off our bills. That means higher interest rates for businesses. That means higher interest rates for consumers.
The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, with its new head, France's former finance minister, Christine Lagarde, says that financial markets would face a quote-unquote severe shock if the U.S. did not move quickly to increase its borrowing authority. House Speaker John Boehner says the focus should be more on cutting our massive $14 trillion debt, not making a new borrowing deadline.
Nobody believes that the United States is going to walk away from its obligations. Dealing with this debt problem and this deficit problem is far more important than meeting some artificial date created by the Treasury Secretary.
Question, why has the debt ceiling caused a political impasse? Pat Buchanan.
A couple of reasons. One is the Democrats really don't want to give up on their entitlement programs and take the cuts in things like Medicare. Secondly, and probably more important, Republicans aren't going to give them a dime in tax hikes, John. But I'll tell you who's going to win this. Boehner, you see, has more confidence. You see the president talking in panic. What the Republicans are going to do is they're going to wait till about July 20th, and then they're going to take the Biden cuts, all the Biden cuts and social programs. They're going to tie them to the debt ceiling and pass them in the House and send them over to the Senate. So you've got your debt ceiling raised for 1 year with the Biden cuts. I think the Democrats, the President of the United States, will have to sign that. The Republicans have an enormous weapon here, and they've got the whip hand by just sending over these debt ceiling increases with cuts on them again and again and again. That's how it's going to play out.
Are you saying that then it's going to become part of the annual budget?
I think the debt ceiling battle could be a 6-month thing. It could be a 1-year thing every year. Republicans have a weapon here, John, to force cuts in social spending year after year after year if they play the game right.
But to move it across to the Senate, it's got to be in an instrument, a legal instrument, a congressional instrument. The House, that is the budget.
The House is going to pass the debt ceiling
within the budget.
No, with these cuts on it, and just send it over there in July.
As a separate piece of legislation.
Yes, sure.
Eleanor.
This is like the Ryan plan on steroids. Just do away with all the social programs.
No, not all of them, Eleanor.
They'll take the Republican Party with it if they try that strategy. This is a typical Washington kabuki dance with stakes that are considerably higher this time. And if you look at how it's going to play out, I think the Speaker, because he's got a majority that was basically elected on refusal to raise the debt ceiling and cutting the deficit, he wants to have a vote that fails in the House, and then he wants to go back to the White House and have the president give him something so he can so that they can pass the debt ceiling. The president believes that the Republicans are so mousetrapped politically that they're going to have to make a deal. And this is the posturing that's going on both sides, and it's going to last several more weeks. But I would not sell short the guy who has the bully pulpit, especially when he knows how to use it, which he did very well this week. Corporate jets at all.
You think you're going to get in trouble with the Japanese for characterizing the kabuki in terms of the debt ceiling?
It's an elegant dance. It's not so elegant when it goes on with the Congress.
Well, that's what I mean.
Still,
they could be besmirching the kabuki. James, what's up? The question is not about kabuki.
I'm not ready for the kabuki question, but I am ready for the tax question. And there is no way the Republicans are going to agree to a tax increase. Any Republican who votes to raise taxes by any amount is going to face a Tea Party primary challenge. This tax issue is an existential issue for the Republicans. They will not cave on it. If the president caves on it, if he signs a bill without taxes, guess what? He's not going to get a primary challenge. He's fine. The Republicans cannot vote for tax increases, and they won't.
What's the upshot going to be?
We're going to win.
I think it's going to either be a scenario very similar to what Pat just said.
A tax increase is not always a tax increase, and I'll let Mort get to that. The
Why-
tax
well,
if you're paying more, it's a tax
Why
increase.
would the Democrat-controlled Senate go the Pat route?
They have to. The debt ceiling. Look what the president said. Everything's going to
mean
collapse. They'll take Biden.
The president
they don't
made
want
the
to be
case himself.
responsible
They'll
over
take
there for letting the
Biden-
government shut down.
Biden has
that
already.
means no checks go out for Social Security.
Biden has
etc.
already agreed to these cuts, so they put him on the debt ceiling and send him over and say, "Here's
These
your
are
cuts."
bipartisan cuts, effectively.
There is another factor here. The debt ceiling was put in place exactly to do what it's now doing, which is to constrain profligate spending by the Congress. The country understands it. The country understands that debt has consequences because tens of millions of people have mortgages that exceed the value of their homes, and they have credit card lines that they can't pay back. So they're just sick and tired of running these huge deficits, which do not seem to have worked in the terms of at least reviving the economy. So the public support is just going to increasingly go to the Republicans, and somehow or other the Democrats know that.
You heard the dire predictions made by President Obama if the ceiling is not raised. But if he let that go forward, and the public sees that, isn't that going to kill his re-election? You follow me?
He'll be blamed.
You mean if he were to let that go forward?
You understand that that's the gamble that both sides are playing, because I'll guarantee right now they're sitting in the White House saying, boy, if we stop payments to Social Security recipients, the Republicans will be defeated.
He is gearing everything he does right now because he's in political mode for next year,
Absolutely.
17 months from now.
Absolutely.
He wants to win that re-election.
Absolutely.
Okay, if he would have let that kind of collapse occur, the government shuts down, the public would never forgive him, and they get him out. They get him out of office.
It all depends.
With assurance, and he knows that.
It all depends whom they blame. Everybody's going to be playing the blame
Lawrence,
game at that
keep in
point.
mind-
And
keep
who
in
I
mind,
know, the public
If you
going
were
to believe.
calculating the odds of whether he's going to persist
John,
in this, you would have to calculate that he's too smart a politician to know that he can only persist
he
up to
was
a
a
certain
smart
point,
politician-
and then he should yield in the interest of
Hey,
the public.
John,
He was a smart
Correct?
John, who
politician.
is-
He would not
John,
have
if it
attacked the
collapses- if it
Republicans
collapses-
publicly this way.
All
If you
right,
want to make a deal with
John,
the Republicans,
it's
you
gotta
don't
be-
attack
Okay,
the
John, if
okay,
it
hold on,
collapses-
Pat, hold on. Setwa, something else to worry about. Procrastination.
There's no point in procrastinating. There's no point in putting it off. We've got to get this done. Malia and Sasha generally finish their homework a day ahead of time. Malia's 13, Sasha's 10. It is impressive. They don't wait until the night before. They're not pulling all-nighters. They're 13 and 10. You know, Congress can do the same thing.
Congress should cancel its 4th of July vacation until a debt ceiling agreement is reached, says Mr. Obama. The president says that he himself has been dutifully in Washington, fulfilling his duties.
I've been here. I've been doing Afghanistan and bin Laden and the Greek crisis, and you stay here. Let's get it done.
But Mr. Obama himself has spent considerable time outside the nation's capital. Quote, Obama was in Brasilia on March 19 when he announced his authorization of, quote-unquote, limited military action in Libya. For that matter, he has been away from Washington for a large part of his 2.5 years as president. According to figures compiled at the end of 2010 by CBS reporter Mark Nola, Obama's first 23 months in office saw 70 days on foreign trips and 58 days on vacation trips. He has gambled that it pays to present himself as a statesman above the scramble of something disagreeable called Washington. Unquote.
Question: with regard to Obama's leadership on domestic issues, what pattern emerges from his first term? Eleanor Clift.
First of all, I don't think anyone thinks this president is not a hard worker. And he went after the Congress for what are ridiculous work schedules, where the House and the Senate take different breaks, so you can't deal with the Congress as a whole for half the time, and they work Tuesday to Thursday. And I think most Americans have had it with the Congress. They're not blaming the president in this one.
Right.
This president's pattern is basically to come in at the last minute when his supporters are thinking all is lost, and then he rises to the occasion. And he's done this now on this budget thing.
John,
they've been trying to get him into the act for months. and
Okay,
now-
okay, hold on, Pat. President Obama's speech touched a nerve for many senators and caused soft-spoken senators, like Kansas Republican Senator Pat Roberts, to say this.
So maybe if you just take a Valium and calm down and come on down and talk to us, why, it might be helpful.
Question: is Senator Pat Roberts right? I asked you, Pat.
Look, the president engaged in a lot of partisan. Some of it's very funny. Sasha and Malia pulling an all-nighter.
Right.
But he slams the Congress. He ticks these guys off. It accomplishes nothing. This is Mickey Mouse, John. You ask who's going to be blamed. Look at who said, look, the whole thing's going to go down. If somebody is Herbert Hoover here and it goes down, do you think it's going to be John Boehner that'll be blamed by history? Or will it be Barack Obama, who's in charge of the country and the economy?
James, hold on, James. You realize we got the whole month of July to get through this before we get to the August 2nd deadline. Right. What are we going to do with this matter? Are we going to continue to debate this every week? Do you think it's got that type of vitality in it? You mean in itself? When is the financial page of the New York Times going to put it on with the shipping news?
Listen, this is an extremely important issue. The financial markets will not let you forget about it. But listen, despite the president's apocalyptic talk, let's not forget that every month the U.S. government has about $200 billion coming in. There's plenty of money to cover debt payments, Social Security, Medicare, unemployment insurance, and pay
wait a minute. You think he can squeeze the sponge in July to make all of that water go into his bucket for the re-election? You think he can do that? We got a whole month of July, and this is going to be returned to again and again.
If this goes on the page with the shipping news, it's going to be the page that deals with the shipping of the Titanic. I mean, this is a disaster for the United States, without question. And to play the kind of political game that he just played on it now, as Pat was saying, it's completely counterproductive. You can't attack the people on the other side of the table.
Do you think he thinks he can win his re-election on this issue? And if he does cave, he'll say that he's caving in the public interest.
That's what
and get more mileage out of it.
If he does, look, the country does not want one side to win or lose. Both parties have got to get together. The country wants bipartisanship on this thing. This is not bipartisan.
White House
does he fundamentally want a deal?
Let's get another
he does not.
He does not want a
The White House
deal.
thinks, if I can finish this, the White House thinks,
I'm going to let you in.
the White House thinks they have a winning hand on this. That because of the tax issue, they can pound Republicans saying you're not agreeing to this for these very minor tax issues, and they are going to push it to the absolute limit, whether that's July 22nd, August 2nd, or whatever.
It is a free-for-all every day on Capitol Hill and on cable news assailing the president. He fights back, and suddenly he's ruining bipartisanship.
What's his plan? What's his budget plan? We're waiting to hear that.
The escape hatch here is what the sainted Alan Greenspan said, and that is that incentives and tax breaks in the tax code are spending, and they're going to have to realize that.
Exit question. The president is also keeping something else off page one by this debate. What is he keeping off page one? What is he?
It's not
The
Michelle
poor
Bachmann.
economy.
What is
Jobs?
Afghanistan, Iraq. And
Afghanistan is off page one. Iraq is
But
off
let me
page
tell you,
one.
John, in the end of July, this is going to be up this big on page one. If there isn't a deal, he's got to take
Is
the
he
There's gonna be a
Republican
countdown
keeping the
clock on every TV
unemployment
show.
rate off page one,
That's what I
which is
just
going to
said.
come out next week?
I said
If the unemployment rate comes out high, it'll be the lead story in the newspaper, John.
There
But
will
it will dominate this story that we just
It'll
had?
dominate it for a couple of days
I
and
wonder.
contribute to it.
Look, the
Well, let's get out. We got to get out. I'm going to get to you in a minute. Go ahead.
There will be a deal.
There will be a
There
deal.
will be a deal, and neither side will be happy. Each side will give the other side something. They are grown politicians
that's not
in the
going to be part
end,
of the
and
deal.
they'll work it out.
Taxes will not be part of this deal.
Taxes will not be part of the deal. What do you think?
Tax revenues. If you want to grow the economy for more tax revenues,
they'll find something, I think, to agree on finally. I don't know whether it'll be on August the 2nd or August the 5th, but I will say this. Unemployment rate is not off the front pages. Unemployment is on the number one issue in 20% of American families. You have the biggest unemployment we've had since the Great Depression in real terms, okay? That is what's going to kill Obama's prospects if he doesn't do something about it. Well, this stuff to them...
I think the public mood will go dark and they will say, yield and get consensus, get compromise.
That's what the president is supposed to do.
Politics is built on, compromise. Settle it. Right. Settle it now. Otherwise, it's self-defeating for both parties. They both get smeared.
I agree.
But one will get smeared the more. It remains to be seen which one will that will be. Right. When we come back, Obama and the Jets.
You're not going to get any taxes.
Looking for life insurance can feel like a jungle of ifs. If I'll finally get the coverage my family deserves. If it's something we can afford. To steer clear of the confusion, go to MetLife.com. In less than 5 minutes, you'll get straight answers, like how much life insurance you really need and how much it costs. So no matter where you end up buying, you'll make the best decision for your family. Get guarantees for the if in life from MetLife. Call 1-888-MET-LIFE for your free quote with no pressure or obligation.
Another good thing about Geico is they've got like real live people working there 24/7. So like say you need to report a claim, right? A real person will be there to help you. Then you can use geico.com to view photos of the damage, track your claim, print an estimate. You want an English muffin? They literally hand you a toasted muffin with butter and jam. Oh, it's tasty. That's a complete dramatisation, of course, but you get my point.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Smart global investing requires expertise from the ground up. With insights from local experts across the world, we have a unique perspective on global investing. Franklin Templeton Investments. Gain from our perspective.
Issue 2, Obama's bête noire, corporate jets.
I think it would be hard for the Republicans to stand there and say that the tax break for corporate jets is sufficiently important. You'll still be able to ride on your corporate jet. You're just going to have to pay a little more. Are they willing to compromise their kids' safety so that some corporate jet owner continues to get a tax break? If we choose to keep a tax break for corporate jet owners, that means we've got to stop funding certain grants for medical research. The tax cuts I'm proposing, we get rid of, are tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires. tax breaks for oil companies and hedge fund managers and corporate jet owners. I think it's only fair to ask an oil company or a corporate jet owner that has done so well to give up that tax break that no other business enjoys.
Question, is this the rhetoric of a president trying to achieve a political consensus, or is this the rhetoric of a politician trying to score political points? I ask you, James Pethokoukis.
Let's just be clear that the president's last budget called for $10 trillion in new deficits. The corporate jets would equal 0.03% if he got that revenue. This is the beginning of what we're going to see for the next 17 months, a class warfare campaign to run against the Republicans. Same old party of the rich, party that, and there we go. This
to add to your point, just let me say that Lawrence O'Donnell's program, I think it was Wednesday night or Thursday night of this week, had Alice Rivlin on. And he said, what do you think of this corporate jets issue? And she says, I think it's too trivial to talk about.
Right.
It's
trivial.
symbolic.
If you want to get rid of these tax breaks,
what do you have to say about corporate jets since you arrived here in one today?
No. With all due respect, I arrived in a jet, but it's not a corporate jet. That makes it's not tax deductible. But I'll explain that to you.
It's a personal jet.
It's a personal jet, not a corporate jet.
You can't describe the jet.
Well, it's enough for 2 people, maybe even enough for 4 people. And when you were on it, John, we had caviar just to maintain your lifestyle. But having said that, okay, I agree. You do not go public in this way if you want to make a deal with the other side. It is exactly the wrong way to do it. It's bad politics, okay? These are trivial items. They do not address the major problems facing this country in terms of fiscal policy.
Why is he doing it? Why did he mention it 6 times? Corporate jet.
It's an easy way. It's populist politics. He thinks he's going to arouse the country. By the way, he raises taxes on everybody earning above $250,000, including a lot of small businesses, but setting aside that he just calls them millionaires and billionaires. It's easy for him to say that. It is ridiculous for the President of the United States to run politics that way.
Is this a Huey Long tactic? Soak the rich.
Yes.
Does this breed class warfare?
Well,
can we get another
class
view?
antagonism, that's for sure. And it's politics.
In point of fact, is he failing to recognize that the wealthy and the ones who travel in jets, they have meetings aboard the jets.
Hey, John.
With the officers before they go to their clients.
They don't have to
is he also describing what it's like to wait around in airports today?
Hey, John.
The screening that we see.
I'll tell you what he's missing, John. He's missing the people, the workers that build these.
Wait a minute. Eleanor, let Eleanor in.
The yacht
we should get another view here when the corporate jet caucus is done convening.
Oh, that's nonsense.
It is a symbolic issue. Do you remember the $400 toilet seats that the Pentagon had to defend some years ago? This is the kind of thing that people understand. And when you look at the tax code, it is riddled with tax breaks for special
Do you remember the yacht tax that killed the yacht industry? Remember the yacht tax? Put thousands out of work. It's the exact same thing.
Let Pat in.
Workers who are going to get hurt.
John, this is demagoguery. Hold it, Eleanor. Hold it. This is complete demagoguery. This is demagoguery, and I'll tell you why. There are workers out there that build these planes. There are pilots that fly them. There are guys that service them. Mort may fly around one. I was down there at that boat factory when they had the luxury tax. They used to build 8 a month, and now they were building 1.
You mean
they moved them to Mexico.
You mean the big yachts?
I mean the big yachts. They're working guys that build them.
Don't you think this is more Joe the Plumber stuff when he said he really wants to spread the president said to Joe the Plumber, I have to spread the wealth around. I want to spread the wealth around.
By the way,
you got to take the wealth from the rich,
Small bore demagoguery.
I favor higher taxes on the wealthy. I favor higher taxes on the wealthy, without question, as a part of this package. But if he can't get it up for exactly the reasons that Pat describes, it's ridiculous to sit there and just beat them over the head when it's not going to go anywhere.
For people like you, and we want you to invest. We want you to invest in new properties. We want you to take risk.
Yes.
And if you go down the drain, maybe you can support it, maybe you can't. Some of you can't. But the ones who take the risk are the ones who have the money. And they do take the risk because there are all kinds of projects, fortunately, springing up that give jobs. We'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by MetLife. Guarantees for the if in life.
Looking for life insurance can feel like a jungle of ifs. If I'll finally get the coverage my family deserves. If it's something we can afford. To steer clear of the confusion, go to MetLife.com. In less than 5 minutes, you'll get straight answers, like how much life insurance you really need and how much it costs. So no matter where you end up buying, you'll make the best decision for your family. Get guarantees for the if in life from MetLife. Call 1-888-MET-LIFE for your free quote with no pressure or obligation.
How does an investment manager stand the test of time? By taking a long view through all market cycles and keeping a close eye on risk. Franklin Templeton Investments, a solid approach to investing for over 60 years. Gain from our perspective.
False prediction, we will have a new Secretary of the Treasury by November 1.
Yes, we will.
What's more interesting is who comes next, and I hope he's more populist
But we won't-
than the current one.
A new one.
Secretary.
A new one?
We will, but he won't be a banker.
He won't be a banker.
Will not be from
Will he
Wall
own a private jet?
Yes, but it'll be earlier than that date.
Earlier than that?
Yeah.
You know who it's going to be?
No, but
Will it be the head of J.P. Morgan?
No, it will not. Absolutely
No.
not.
Absolutely not.
Will not be James.
We will have a new Secretary of the Treasury by November 1. Happy Independence Day. Bye-bye.